Oh. Why are you telling me? Go ahead.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to the estuarium at the Dauphin Island Sea Lab. My name is Brian Jones. I'm the curator here, and one of my responsibilities is taking care of the animals in the facility, along with 3 other great coworkers. Part of my responsibility is taking care of the Mobile Delta Gallery, and it includes a really cool animal here. We have the American alligator. This is a juvenile. He's 2.5 years old now, and he is on loan to us from Alligator Alley over in Summerdale, Alabama. The folks there, Wes and Joseph, were kind enough to loan us this guy a couple of years ago. And as he gets bigger, possibly too big for this tank soon, we will take him back to Alligator Alley and hopefully get 1 or 2 new hatchlings. When they're hatched out of the egg, they're about 8 inches long. So you can tell this guy has grown a little bit. I say guy, I'm not sure. It's kind of difficult to tell at this age whether he's a boy or a girl. So we just call him a guy, call him an it. He's our friend. We don't typically name the animals, but if you guys have any name suggestions, feel free to toss them our way. So this guy is very accustomed to being in captivity. He's very used to people coming by to visit. Fairly calm. Sometimes he reacts at motion and snaps toward the window. I think as he gets bigger and older, he's getting a little less afraid of people and more trying to show his size and his bully nature. Alligators in the wild are typically very reluctant to be around people. They're very passive. They would rather slink away and not be noticed. It's only when people routinely feed alligators that we have bad encounters. You'll find some alligators around urban areas, golf courses, and unfortunately people sometimes feed them. The alligators will lose their fear of humans and be more likely to cause problems. And when the alligator is this big, a problem isn't that major. But when an alligator that reaches 10 or 12 feet long gets accustomed to people and unafraid, the problem's going to be pretty bad.
You ready for some questions?
I think we might have some questions already.
Yes. Okay, so we have Peter in 1st grade asks, how many teeth do alligators have?
Oh, that's a good question. Many, many teeth. I have not wrestled one down and opened his mouth to count, but I know they have dozens and dozens of teeth. And one interesting thing about alligators, you might have heard the difference between alligators and crocodiles. One way you can tell them apart is that the crocodile's teeth are more visible. What's interesting with alligators, their head is wider, their mouth is wider, and their top teeth actually extend beyond their bottom jaw, and their bottom teeth fit into little holes in their top jaw. So most of what you see are the top teeth of the alligator. Now, interestingly, like sharks, an alligator will lose teeth throughout his life, and they do regrow. So they're able to replace their broken teeth. So it's almost like people's baby teeth. These guys have baby teeth their whole life. They just keep replacing them. So it's also one of the interesting fossils that you might be able to find is alligator teeth.
Okay, and we have, let's see, Claire from 3rd grade asks, why don't the alligators eat the birds that crawl around in their mouth?
Oh, good question, Claire. I hate to break it to you, but sometimes they do eat those birds. There are probably some birds that pick little parasites or help clean the alligator, and the alligator probably learns to leave those alone. But I do know that sometimes alligators will actually use sticks and twigs to attract birds to come down like they're trying to grab the twig for its nest. And as the bird comes in for the twig, the alligator jumps up and eats the bird. So alligators are not too picky about what they eat.
So we have Misty Jones from London.
Wow.
How large can they grow?
Good question, Misty. The American alligator male can grow up to 15 feet long. The female is about 10 feet. And they typically live 30 to 40 years is about maximum. One interesting thing, I forgot, alligators never stop growing. People, most animals reach a certain size and they stop growing. But alligators grow their whole life. Even the really old alligator is still growing.
Pretty cool. All right, so we have Johnny in first grade. He wants to know, how do alligators roar?
How do alligators roar? Good question. They produce vibrations with their lungs, and that vibration makes what's called an infrasound. It's a really crazy, deep vibration, and that's how they roar. And that is used to attract friends, especially in the springtime, and it's also used to set boundaries for other males especially. So it's mainly the males that make that roar, that bellows.
And then we have, let's see, Paul in pre-kindergarten wants to know, how are alligators invisible in the pond?
Ooh, good question. It's hard to see on this guy right now, but the alligators can stay almost completely hidden while still breathing. Their nostrils are way up on the tip top of their snout. So they can just look like either a little turtle or a stump and still breathe and be visible. Most of their body will be down under the surface, and just the tip of their nostrils will be up above the water. But they can also hold their breath for a really long time, probably 30 or 40 minutes, depending on the water temperature.
Craig Newton, one of our alumni, he wants to know, his kids want to know the age of our alligator. So how old is our guy in the tank?
This guy is 2.5 years old. It hatched out of an egg in September of 2017. And if you like, I'll go ahead and take it out of the tank so we can take a close-up look at him.
Okay, yeah.
See if he'll cooperate.
How does he use his hands down there?
Wow. Okay, that was cool. Very cool. If you listen,
He is hissing a little bit. That's part of their defense. Tries to act big and mean, showing you his teeth.
I want to feel him.
So their bite strength is close to being the strongest of any animal in the world, even stronger than a great white shark. So they can bite down about 3,000 pounds per square inch. Fortunately, the muscles that they use to open their mouth are pretty weak. So we can hold his mouth. And you can see those nostrils up on top. I make sure not to cover his nostrils so he can still breathe well.
very cool. We have Brooks in third grade and Kennedy in first grade. What's the difference between alligators and crocodiles? We kind of chatted on that one.
Good question. They're related like wolves and dogs are, so they're cousins. But just looking at them, the crocodile's snout, right where my fingers are, is much narrower. The alligator has a really broad snout. Also, crocodiles are found mainly in the tropics, so around the equator. In many countries, they do get larger than alligators, and they're more responsible for attacks on humans, especially in the Nile River. They're known to chase after people. We do have a crocodile species in North America, and it typically lives down in South Florida.
Tori, who's 7, she wants to know, how long can alligators live?
Oh, good question. Alligators typically live 25 to 50 years. It's a pretty broad range, and that's largely based on health issues that all wild animals face. But I think the maximum recorded was about 50 years.
And then, what do alligators eat? Virginia and Anna want to know.
Good questions. Alligators are not very picky about what they eat. Little ones this size tend to eat insects, tadpoles, worms, little frogs. And as the alligator gets bigger, they'll go after more things like beavers and deer and pigs and nutria and turtles. Turtles are one of their favorite meals. They have this jaw strength to crack through turtle shells to eat them. That's one of their favorite dinners. But as they get big, if they eat a large meal, they might only need to eat a few times a year. So they don't have to eat nearly as much as we do.
We have a couple of egg questions. So London, who's in 2nd grade, wants to know what season of the year alligators lay their eggs. And then Tracy wants to know how many eggs do females usually lay.
Good questions. Typically, the eggs are laid in the summertime. They incubate in nests that the mom builds. She will push together the vegetation in the marsh or in the swamps and make a big pile where she lays her eggs, and then she covers them with that vegetation. As that organic matter decomposes, it produces heat, and that helps incubate the eggs. So unlike a bird that sits on the eggs to keep them warm, the alligators just make a fancy nest out of vegetation. They typically lay 30 to 40 eggs, and it takes about 2.5 months for those to hatch. It's interesting that the temperature of the nest determines whether the alligators are boys or girls.
And that's our next question, because Autumn wanted to know if you can tell, how can you tell if it's a boy or a girl?
Right. Well, with one that's in your hand, you kind of have to get rude with them to find out. Everything about whether they're a boy or a girl is internal, so we can't just look at them to tell, especially when they're this size. Like I said, the males get a lot bigger, so if the alligator is 15 feet long, you know it's a boy. But what determines whether an egg becomes a boy or a girl alligator is based on temperature. So if the temperature of the nest is in the mid-90s, then all the alligators will be boys. If the temperature in the nest is in the mid-80s, they'll all be girls. And if the temperature's in between, you'll have a mixture of both. So some boys and some girls.
So Leo wants to know how many species of alligators are in the world?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. Believe it or not, there are only 2 species of alligators in the world. There's a Chinese alligator and the American alligator. Now, there are many other species of crocodiles and caimans and other similar, they're all called crocodilians. So there are other species, but the only 2 alligators that are currently alive are the Chinese and the American alligator.
Ben, who's age 5, he wants to know how fast can they move on land?
Faster than I want to test. They can move fairly fast for short distances. They can sprint. On land, they have 2 different methods of locomotion, of walking. They have a low walk and a high walk. So if they want to slither along the ground very slowly, their belly's on the ground dragging. But if they want to move faster, they lift their whole body up on their legs, and their belly is not touching the ground, and they can run. And it's probably 15 miles an hour or so. But I don't want to test that with a big one. But they can't hold their body up for too long because their legs, they don't really have built up muscles in their legs. They're most of the time in the water, and the main muscle they have is in the base of their tail. So their tail is really thick and muscular, and on the back end it's flat. So they're able to use that to paddle back and forth to propel themselves in the water very fast.
So our friend Katie Blankenhorn, she says, "Hey Brian,
Hey Katie.
Tell us about tonic immobility."
Good question. Tonic immobility is a fancy term that scientists use to talk about certain animals that sort of go to sleep when you turn them upside down. Sharks experience that, so do crocodilians. So one way that the trainers and veterinarians actually do medical exams on these animals is to roll them upside down and hold them for a while, and something in their brain, there's like a little switch that flips and it makes them go much calmer. Luckily our guy is fairly calm to begin with, so we don't need to do that. You can even try it at home sometimes if you catch a little green animal. Sometimes you can gently roll them over and get them to rest upside down. So tonic immobility, cool term.
And then Shelly had a question going back to laying eggs. So if we keep having hot summers, can you face a shortage of one alligator sex?
It's possible. Yeah, that's one of the theories that they're working on. There's also a possibility that maybe the alligators will adapt and not put so much vegetation on the nest. Maybe that would keep the temperatures cooler. But it is a possibility that as global temperatures increase, we might end up with more males than females and then have a drop in population. Fortunately, right now, the alligator population has rebounded really well. Decades ago, a lot of them were hunted nearly to the point of extinction. So they put strict limits on hunting for them. There are a few states now, including Alabama, that allow alligator hunting for part of the year, but it's a very limited number, and they collect a lot of data from those alligators that are harvested. So it's a good sign now that they're allowing some hunting that the population has rebounded really well.
How long are we going to keep this guy in the tank? So we said we got him from Alligator Alley.
Right. Typically, they grow about a foot per year until they reach about 6 feet long. So this one's a little bit shorter than he would be because we keep him on a bit of a diet. But we normally keep the alligators that we get on loan for about 2 years. This one we had to stretch a little longer time-wise, so we're keeping him for 3 years just based on availability. But we hope later this fall we'll be getting a new baby to put in our tank.
And where will this guy go?
This guy will go back to Alligator Alley. They've got an amazing swamp that's all fenced in. They've got boardwalks over the swamp, so visitors can go and check out the ones that used to be here and have grown bigger. They have a few that are really large, and in the warmer months they do feeding shows for visitors. It's a really great facility.
So how long, I'm going to put a couple of them together. How long have alligators been around, and are they related to dinosaurs?
Good question. Those are kind of tricky questions for me. I mainly deal with the live ones, but I believe that the crocodilians have been around for about 100 million years. Their closest cousins are birds. If you think about that, birds are related to dinosaurs. The dinosaurs lived before these guys, so they're relatives in that they're both large reptiles, but they're not direct offshoots of dinosaurs.
All right, and I think we have time for one more big question. So John in 7th grade wants to know, what kind of water do alligators live in, and is it brackish water, and what's usually the temperature of the water?
Good questions. They prefer fresh water. Well, they can tolerate some salt. Normally don't find them in saltwater habitats. They do okay in brackish water, but over time they develop some health issues if they're exposed to too much salt. They prefer warmer water. They do go a little more dormant in the wintertime. They don't hibernate, but they will go dormant, just not nearly as active. So I think right around now, when the temperatures in the delta are probably approaching the 70s in the water, they're out cruising around right now already.
Well, Brian, thank you so much. We're going to let this guy go back into his home. And what do we have on Wednesday for our crew?
Coming Wednesday, catch up another live event here at the estuarium with our Aquarist, Nicole, and she'll be telling you all about diamondback terrapins, a really cool turtle that's found in the salt marsh.
All right, wonderful. Say goodbye to our American alligator. Bye, guys.